had always known what it felt like to be second best. Growing up, she was the quiet one while her older sister Victoria lit up every room she entered. Victoria got the lead roles in school plays. Victoria made the cheerleading squad. Victoria dated the popular boys and wore designer clothes that somehow always looked perfect on her. Maya didn't mind too much, really. She found her own path. While Victoria climbed the corporate ladder at a fancy marketing firm downtown, Maya spent her days teaching second graders how to read and tie their shoes. The pay wasn't great, but she loved seeing their faces light up when they finally understood something new. She lived in a small apartment with her cat, Buttons, and spent weekends reading or having coffee with her mom. Their father had passed away 3 years ago, heart attack sudden and cruel. He'd been the one who always made Maya feel special, who told her that being kind mattered more than being flashy. After he died, it felt like Victoria shined even brighter, and Maya faded even more into the background. Their mother tried her best, but she was still grieving, still struggling to figure out how to manage without him. Then came the phone call that changed everything. "Maya, you have to come over right now." Victoria's voice was practically singing through the phone. "I have the biggest news ever." Maya was grading papers on a Thursday evening, red pen in hand, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the stack of worksheets still waiting for her attention and sighed. "Can it wait until tomorrow? I'm kind of buried here." "No, it absolutely cannot wait. Mom's already on her way. Please, Maya, this is important." There was something in Victoria's voice, an excitement Maya hadn't heard in a long time. She put down her pen and grabbed her keys. Victoria's apartment was in the fancy part of town, all glass and steel and doormen who wore suits. Maya always felt a little out of place there in her Target jeans and comfortable sweaters. She rode the elevator up to the 20th floor, wondering what kind of promotion or award Victoria had won this time. But when Victoria opened the door, she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, tall and quiet, with dark hair and eyes that seemed kind. He wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans, nothing fancy. "Maya, this is Daniel Chen," Victoria announced, practically glowing. "My fiancé." Maya's jaw dropped. "You're what?" Victoria laughed and held up her left hand. A beautiful ring caught the light, simple and elegant. Not the huge rock Maya would have expected Victoria to choose. "We're engaged. We've been dating for 6 months. I know, I kept it secret. But Daniel's very private, and we wanted to make sure it was real before we told anyone." Their mother arrived minutes later and burst into tears of joy. She hugged Victoria, then Daniel, then Victoria again. Maya stood there trying to process it all. 6 months? Victoria had been seeing someone for 6 months and never mentioned it once. "I can't believe you kept this from us," their mother said, wiping her eyes. "But oh, sweetheart, I'm so happy for you." Daniel shook Maya's hand. His grip was warm and firm. "It's nice to finally meet you. Victoria talks about you all the time." "She does?" Maya couldn't hide her surprise. "Of course I do," Victoria said, linking her arm through Daniel's. "You're my sister. Anyway, we're throwing an engagement party this Saturday. Nothing huge, just close friends and family. You'll come, right?" "Of course," Maya said, still feeling like she'd stepped into some alternate reality. Saturday arrived with sunshine and clear skies. The party was at a beautiful restaurant with a rooftop garden. White flowers everywhere, string lights hung overhead, and a table full of expensive-looking appetizers. Maya wore her nicest dress, a navy blue one she'd bought for a wedding 2 years ago. Victoria naturally looked stunning in cream-colored silk. Maya spent the first hour making small talk with relatives she hadn't seen in months. Everyone kept asking her the same questions. "How's teaching? Are you seeing anyone? When will it be your turn?" She smiled and gave the same answers, feeling more invisible by the minute. Then she found herself alone near the edge of the rooftop, looking out at the city lights starting to twinkle as the sun set. She heard footsteps behind her. "Mind if I hide out here for a minute?" Daniel appeared beside her holding 2 glasses of champagne. He offered her one. "The attention gets a bit overwhelming." Maya took the glass. "I thought you'd be used to it by now." "Victoria always attracts a crowd." Daniel smiled, but it was sad around the edges. "That's true. She's something special, your sister." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Maya studied him. He didn't seem like Victoria's usual type at all. No flashy watch, no expensive suit, no smooth talk about his impressive job. He seemed almost shy. "So you're an architect?" Maya asked, remembering something Victoria had mentioned. "Yeah. I design buildings, mostly residential projects. Nothing too exciting?" He sipped his champagne. But I love it. There's something satisfying about creating spaces where people will build their lives. Maya found herself smiling. I get that. I teach kids to read. It's not glamorous, but watching them discover stories for the first time never gets old. Victoria told me you're wonderful with children. That's a gift. They talked for 20 minutes, easy and natural. Daniel asked real questions and actually listened to her answers. He told her about a project he was working on. Affordable housing units designed to feel like homes instead of boxes. Maya found herself genuinely interested, genuinely liking this quiet man her sister was going to marry. Maybe Victoria had finally found someone good. Someone real. The party continued. Music played. People danced. Speeches were made. Maya's mother gave a tearful toast about love and family and how proud their father would have been. Victoria and Daniel cut a beautiful cake. Everything was perfect. Maya was standing with her mother, watching Victoria laugh at something one of her friends said, when the world tilted sideways. It started as a headache. Just a small throb behind her right eye. Maya pressed her fingers to her temple, thinking maybe she'd had too much champagne on an empty stomach. Then the pain exploded. It felt like lightning inside her skull, white hot and blinding. Maya gasped and the glass in her hand slipped, shattering on the ground. Maya? Her mother's voice sounded far away. The rooftop spun, faces blurred together. She tried to say something, tried to tell them something was wrong, but her words came out garbled and strange. Then her legs gave out. She heard screaming, Victoria's voice high and panicked, her mother sobbing her name. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Daniel's face appeared above her, his kind eyes wide with fear. "Call an ambulance," he shouted. "Someone call 911 right now." Maya wanted to tell them she was fine, that she just needed to sit down for a minute. But darkness was creeping in from the edges of her vision, thick and heavy. The pain in her head was fading, which should have been good, but somehow felt worse. The last thing she heard was sirens in the distance getting closer. The last thing she felt was her mother's hand gripping hers, holding on tight like she could pull Maya back from wherever she was going. Then nothing. Just peaceful, terrifying nothing. The doctors would later explain it was a brain aneurysm, a weak spot in a blood vessel that had been there her whole life, waiting like a time bomb. It could have happened anytime, anywhere. She was lucky, they said, that it happened surrounded by people who could get her help quickly. But Maya didn't feel lucky. Maya didn't feel anything at all, because Maya didn't wake up. The hospital put her in a medically induced coma to let her brain heal. The swelling was severe. The bleeding had been significant. They needed to give her body time to recover, time to fight. Days, they said. Maybe weeks, maybe longer. And while Maya lay silent and still in that hospital bed, machines breathing for her, her perfect sister's perfect engagement party became a distant memory. Everything was about to change in ways none of them could possibly imagine. In the waiting room, Victoria sat with her head in her hands, mascara running down her cheeks. Daniel paced back and forth, still wearing his party clothes. Their mother hadn't moved from Maya's bedside, holding her youngest daughter's hand and praying for her to wake up. None of them knew that in 2 months a wedding was still scheduled. And none of them could have guessed who would be wearing the white dress. 3 weeks passed. 21 days of machines beeping, nurses checking vitals, and Maya lying perfectly still in that hospital bed. Her mother practically lived in the chair beside her, talking to her unconscious daughter about everything and nothing. The weather, what was on TV, how much everyone missed her. Victoria came too, though less frequently. She had work, she explained. Important meetings. A campaign launch that couldn't wait. Their mother didn't argue. Victoria had always been the busy one, the important one. That hadn't changed just because Maya was sick. Daniel visited every few days. He'd sit quietly and read to Maya from books he thought she might like. Nobody had asked him to. He just did it. Sometimes he'd tell her about his day, about the buildings he was designing. Her mother found it sweet. This man who'd only met Maya once but cared enough to visit. On day 22, Victoria showed up at the hospital looking pale and shaken. She found her mother in the cafeteria picking at a sandwich she wouldn't eat. "Mom, I need to talk to you." Privately. They found an empty family room at the end of the hallway. Victoria closed the door and leaned against it, her hands trembling. "I'm pregnant." Their mother's face lit up for the first time in weeks. "Oh, sweetheart." That's wonderful. Does Daniel know? This is such good news, we could all use something to celebrate right now. No, Mom, you don't understand. Victoria's voice cracked. It's not Daniel's baby. The silence that followed was crushing. What do you mean it's not Daniel's? Victoria sank into a chair and buried her face in her hands. The whole story came spilling out. She'd been having an affair with her boss, Robert, for almost a year. He was married with 2 kids. She'd thought it was just fun, just excitement, nothing serious. But then things got complicated. She'd kept seeing Daniel because he was safe, because he was the kind of man who'd make a good husband on paper. But she didn't love him. She loved Robert. And Robert promised he'd leave his wife, Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. He said we'd be together. Then I found out I was pregnant and told him, and he said, she choked on the words. He said he couldn't leave his family, that we were done. He gave me money and told me to handle it. Their mother stared at her oldest daughter like she was looking at a stranger. Victoria, what have you done? I don't know what to do, Mom. The wedding is in 6 weeks. How am I supposed to marry Daniel when I'm pregnant with another man's baby? He'll find out. Everyone will find out. I'll be ruined. You have to tell him the truth. You have to call off the wedding. Victoria shook her head frantically. I can't. I can't face him. I can't face everyone. Mom, I need to leave. I need to go away until I figure this out. Leave? Where would you go? Robert's wife found out about us. She's threatening to expose everything. I have money saved. I can go to Europe, maybe Paris or London. Somewhere far away where I can think clearly. I just need time. Their mother looked tired beyond words. Tired of hospitals, tired of worrying, tired of secrets and lies. What about Daniel? What am I supposed to tell him? Tell him I had a breakdown. Tell him I couldn't handle the stress of Maya being sick and the wedding planning. Tell him anything. I'll write a note. Please, Mom. I know I've messed up, but I'm begging you. What their mother didn't know was that Victoria had already bought a plane ticket. She was leaving in 3 days whether her mother helped her or not. This conversation was just to ease her conscience, to make it look like she cared about the damage she was leaving behind. 2 days later, Victoria met Daniel at a quiet coffee shop across town. She'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times in her head. She needed him to agree to her plan, and she knew exactly which buttons to push. Daniel, I need to tell you something about my father, about the real reason he died. Daniel set down his coffee cup. What do you mean? He didn't just have a heart attack. He was stressed beyond belief. He'd borrowed money, a lot of money, and he couldn't pay it back. The stress killed him. This was partially true. Their father had been stressed. But Victoria was about to add her own twist to the story. He borrowed the money from your family, Daniel, from your parents. Almost $500,000 for a business investment that failed. I found the paperwork when we were going through his things. My mother doesn't know. Maya doesn't know. I've been keeping it secret because I was ashamed. Daniel's face went pale. My family loaned your father money? Your parents. They were friends with my dad years ago, remember? He came to them when he was desperate. And when he died, the debt didn't disappear. It passed to us. To my mother and Maya. The payment plan is almost up. In 3 months, if we can't pay the remaining $200,000, your family can call in the full debt. We'll lose everything. The house, my mother's savings, all of it. This was a complete lie. A carefully constructed story Victoria had spent days perfecting. But Daniel didn't know that. He sat there processing, looking stricken. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I love you. Because I didn't want you to think I was marrying you for your family's money. But now, she let tears fall. Now I have to leave. I can't marry you knowing this debt is hanging over us. It's too complicated. I'm calling off the wedding. I just wanted you to know the truth before I go. She started to stand up. Daniel grabbed her wrist gently. Wait, where are you going? Away. Somewhere I can't hurt anyone anymore. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Victoria could see his mind working, seeing the pieces moving. Come on, she thought. Take the bait. What if we don't call off the wedding? He said slowly. What do you mean? I just told you I can't marry you. But someone in your family needs to marry into mine, to clear the debt. It's a family matter now. He paused. What if I married Maya instead? Victoria pretended to look shocked. Maya? She's in a coma, Daniel. I know, but legally it's possible. I could marry her, take responsibility for your family's debt, make it disappear. Your mother and Maya would be protected. You could take the time you need to figure things out. When Maya wakes up, we'll explain everything. Maybe we can annul it later, or she'll understand why it had to happen." Victoria let the idea hang in the air as if she hadn't planted it there herself. "That's insane. Why would you do that?" "Because I care about your family. Because it's the right thing to do. And because—" He stopped, looking uncomfortable. "Because what?" "Because I need to be married by my 30th birthday anyway." "It's complicated. Family business. This would solve problems for both of us." There it was. Daniel had his own secrets, his own reasons for needing a wife. Victoria had suspected as much. Men like Daniel didn't date women like her without ulterior motives. Everyone had an angle. "Daniel, this is crazy." "Maybe, but think about it. Maya would be protected. Your mother wouldn't lose everything. And you could have time to figure out your life without worrying about destroying theirs." Victoria let herself be convinced. It took another hour of discussion, of her pretending to resist while Daniel persuaded her. But eventually she agreed. They would do this. Daniel would marry Maya. Victoria would disappear for a while. Everything would work out. What Victoria didn't tell Daniel was that none of the debt story was true. What Daniel didn't tell Victoria was that the debt was real, but he'd already paid it off weeks ago after finding out about it on his own. He'd done it as a wedding gift, planning to surprise her on their wedding day. Two liars making a deal, each thinking they were outsmarting the other. The next morning, Victoria sat down with her mother and explained the plan. Her mother was horrified. "You want him to marry Maya? Your sister who's unconscious in a hospital bed?" "It's the only way, Mom. If Daniel marries into our family, the debt is forgiven. Otherwise, we lose everything. The house Dad left us, your retirement money, everything. Is that what you want?" Her mother looked broken. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. I've spent months trying to figure this out." Daniel has agreed. "He's willing to do this to help us. We just need your consent since Maya can't give hers." It took 2 days of Victoria working on her mother, wearing her down, playing on her fears and her exhaustion. Finally, their mother agreed. She signed the papers with shaking hands, tears running down her face, convinced she was saving her family from financial ruin. Victoria wrote a careful note explaining that she'd had a breakdown, that she couldn't handle everything, that she needed time away. She made it sound like she was the victim of circumstances too painful to bear. Then she boarded a plane to Paris with a first-class ticket and didn't look back. The wedding took place on a gray Thursday afternoon in Maya's hospital room. The hospital chaplain performed a brief ceremony. Daniel wore a dark suit. Maya wore her hospital gown with a blanket pulled up to her shoulders. Her mother had brought flowers and placed them on the bedside table. There was no music, no guests, no celebration. Just a few mumbled words, papers signed, and a ring slipped onto Maya's finger while she slept. Daniel stood there looking at this woman he'd spoken to once, now legally his wife. Her mother sobbed quietly in the corner. The machines beeped their steady rhythm, the only sound in the room. "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered to Maya, though she couldn't hear him. "I'll make this right. I promise." But promises made to sleeping people are easy to make and hard to keep. Daniel left the hospital that day as a married man, feeling like the worst person alive. He told himself he'd done it for good reasons. To protect Maya's family, to secure his own future, to do what needed to be done. But deep down, he knew the truth. He'd married a woman without her knowledge or consent. He'd let Victoria manipulate him into something unforgivable. And now he had to live with it. In her hospital bed, Maya slept on, unaware that her entire life had just changed. Unaware that she was now married to a man she barely knew. Unaware that her sister had vanished halfway around the world. The machines continued their steady beeping. The nurses came and went. Her mother sat and held her hand, wondering what she'd done. And somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, Victoria sipped champagne and tried not to think about what she'd left behind. The first thing Maya noticed was the light. Too bright, too white, burning through her closed eyelids. She tried to lift her hand to block it, but her arm felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Everything hurt. Her head throbbed with a dull, persistent ache. Her throat felt raw and scratchy. Her whole body felt wrong, like she'd been asleep for a very long time. Slowly, painfully, she opened her eyes. A hospital room came into focus. Pale green walls, machines beeping softly, the smell of antiseptic and something floral, flowers. There were flowers everywhere, covering every surface. Maya? Oh my God, Maya. Her mother's face appeared above her, eyes red and swollen. She was crying, pressing Maya's hand to her cheek. Mom? Maya's voice came out as a croak, barely recognizable. You're awake. You're finally awake. I need to get the doctor. Don't move, sweetheart. Just stay still. Her mother rushed out of the room, still crying. Maya lay there confused, trying to piece together what had happened. She remembered the engagement party, the rooftop, the pain in her head, then nothing. How long had she been here? She tried to sit up and felt something unfamiliar on her left hand. She lifted it slowly, squinting at her fingers. A ring, a beautiful gold wedding band with small diamonds circling it. Maya stared at it like it was a snake that had wrapped around her finger. This wasn't her ring. She didn't own any rings. Where had this come from? Doctors rushed in, checking her vitals, shining lights in her eyes, asking her questions. What's your name? What year is it? Do you know where you are? Maya answered them all, her mind still stuck on that ring. After the doctors left, her mother returned with another person, Daniel Chen, the man Victoria was supposed to marry. Why was he here? Maya, her mother said, sitting on the edge of the bed and taking her hand. We need to talk to you about something. You've been in a coma for 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Over a month of her life just gone. Victoria, Maya managed to say. Where's Victoria? Her mother's face crumpled. She's gone, honey, she left. She couldn't handle the stress and she needed time away. But that's not the only thing we need to tell you. Daniel stepped closer, his face serious and sad. Maya remembered talking to him at the party. He'd seemed nice, normal. Why was he looking at her like that? Maya, I know this is going to be incredibly difficult to hear, he said quietly. But while you were unconscious, you and I got married. The room tilted. Maya was sure she'd heard wrong. What? You're my wife, legally. I married you 3 weeks ago here in the hospital. Maya looked at her mother, waiting for her to say this was some kind of sick joke. But her mother just nodded, tears streaming down her face. You let him marry me? While I was in a coma? How is that even legal? I gave consent, her mother whispered. I'm so sorry, Maya, we didn't have a choice. Didn't have a choice? What does that even mean? Daniel pulled up a chair and sat down, looking tired. Your father borrowed money from my family years ago. A lot of money. The debt was coming due, and your mother and you would have lost everything if it wasn't paid. Victoria couldn't go through with our wedding because she was having some kind of breakdown, but the marriage would have cleared the debt. So I married you instead to protect your family. Maya's head was spinning. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of nightmare she was still trapped in. This is insane. You can't just marry someone without their permission. I want a lawyer. I want this annulled. We understand you're upset, Daniel said. And we'll do whatever you want once you're better. But right now you need to focus on recovering. The doctors say you'll need physical therapy, occupational therapy. It's going to take time. I don't care about therapy. I care about the fact that you married me while I was unconscious. Maya's voice rose, making her head pound worse. Where's Victoria? Why didn't she marry you herself if this debt was so important? Her mother and Daniel exchanged a look. She left a note saying she needed time, her mother said. She was overwhelmed. She said she'd explain everything when she came back. When she comes back? So she's just gone? She left me to deal with this mess? Nobody answered, which was answer enough. Maya spent the next week in the hospital, going through tests and therapy sessions, trying to relearn how to walk steadily and how to hold things without dropping them. The doctor said she was lucky. The aneurysm could have killed her or left her with permanent brain damage. All things considered, she was doing great. She didn't feel great. She felt betrayed and angry and trapped. Daniel visited every day. He was patient and polite, treating her like a fragile thing that might break. He brought books she might like. He asked the nurses what she needed. He sat quietly when she didn't want to talk, which was most of the time. Maya wanted to hate him. But it was hard to hate someone who seemed genuinely sorry about the whole situation. When the hospital finally cleared her for discharge, Maya assumed she'd go back to her apartment. Instead, Daniel insisted she come stay at his place where he could make sure she had everything she needed during her recovery. I have a spare bedroom, he said, and a housekeeper who can help with meals and anything else you need. Your apartment building doesn't have an elevator and you're still unsteady on your feet. I'll stay with my mom then. Your mother's house is 40 minutes from your physical therapy appointments. My place is 10 minutes away. He had an answer for everything. Maya was too tired to fight. She agreed to stay for a few weeks just until she was stronger. Daniel's place turned out to be a penthouse apartment in the most expensive building in the city. Maya stood in the marble entryway with her mouth open, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows and designer furniture. You said you were an architect. I am. Architects don't live in places like this. Daniel set down her bag and turned to face her. I need to be honest with you about something. I haven't been completely truthful about who I am. Maya's stomach dropped. What does that mean? My full name is Daniel Chen. My family owns Chen Corporation. We're one of the largest real estate development companies in the country. I didn't tell Victoria because I wanted her to love me for me, not for my money. I worked as an architect at a small firm to keep up the pretense. Maya sank down onto the nearest chair. So you're rich. Actually rich. Yes. And Victoria didn't know. Not until right before she left. I was planning to tell her on our wedding day. Maya laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. So she thought she was marrying a regular guy, and instead she ran away, and now I'm married to a millionaire I don't even know. This keeps getting better and better. Billionaire, actually. But who's counting? Maya glared at him. He had the decency to look embarrassed. That was inappropriate. I'm sorry. Look, I know this whole situation is terrible, but we're stuck with each other for now. I promise I'll give you space and privacy. The master bedroom is yours. I'll take the guest room. This is your apartment, and you're my wife, apparently. You should have the better room. Over the following weeks, Maya settled into a strange new routine. Physical therapy 3 times a week. Occupational therapy twice a week. The rest of the time she spent in the penthouse reading or watching TV or staring out the windows at the city below. Daniel was gone most days, running his company. When he was home, he was quiet and respectful, always asking if she needed anything, always keeping his distance. He'd order dinner from nice restaurants and they'd eat together in awkward silence. He never pushed her to talk, never asked personal questions, never treated her like anything more than a house guest he was obligated to help. It should have been exactly what Maya wanted. But somehow it made everything worse. This polite, careful distance. This pretend marriage between 2 strangers. Maya found herself watching Daniel when he didn't know she was looking. The way he concentrated when he read contracts at the dining table. The way he always made sure her favorite tea was stocked in the kitchen. The way he'd leave notes if he had to leave early for a meeting, just so she wouldn't worry. He was kind. Genuinely kind. Not in a showy way, but in small, quiet gestures that added up. One evening, about 6 weeks after waking up, Maya found Daniel on the balcony, staring out at the sunset. She'd been cleared to stop using the cane, and her head barely hurt anymore. She was getting better, which meant she needed to make some decisions about her future. We should talk about the annulment, she said, joining him at the railing. Daniel didn't look at her. If that's what you want, isn't that what you want? To undo this whole mess? He was quiet for a long moment. It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated. The fake job, the secret billions, this marriage. What else are you hiding, Daniel? He turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Guilt. Real, deep guilt. The debt wasn't the only reason I married you. Maya's heart started beating faster. What do you mean? My grandfather's will has a clause. I have to be married by my 30th birthday, or I lose my inheritance. The company passes to my uncle, who'll destroy everything my grandfather built. Fire thousands of employees, sell off properties, gut the whole thing for profit. When's your birthday? 2 months from now. Maya stepped back from him. So this was never about protecting my family. This was about you. About your money. No, it was about both. The debt was real, Maya, I swear. But yes, I also needed a wife. When Victoria wanted to call off the wedding, I panicked. The marriage to you solved both problems. You lied to me. I did, and I'm sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. I can't believe this. I can't believe any of this. She turned to go back inside, but Daniel caught her wrist gently. Wait. Please. Just let me explain everything. Then if you want to leave. If you want the annulment, I'll make it happen. I'll figure out another solution. Just give me a chance to tell you the whole truth. Maya pulled her hand away but didn't walk off. Fine. Talk. And there on that balcony, as the sun set over the city, Daniel told her everything. About his grandfather's will, about discovering Victoria's affair days before the engagement party, about how he'd already paid off her family's debt weeks ago, but lied about it to keep Maya from leaving immediately, about his desperate, selfish decision to trap her in this marriage. When he finished, Maya felt numb. "You paid off the debt already?" "Yes." "So I could have left at any time?" "Yes. But you let me believe my family would be ruined if I did." Daniel nodded, looking miserable. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just needed you to know the truth." Maya walked back inside without another word. She went to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at that ring on her finger. She should be furious. She should call a lawyer right now and end this farce. Daniel had lied to her, manipulated her, trapped her. But as she sat there in the expensive bedroom of this penthouse she'd been living in for weeks, Maya realized something that scared her. She wasn't sure she wanted to leave. Not because of the money or the luxury or the debt that didn't actually exist, but because somewhere in the past 6 weeks, between the awkward dinners and quiet evenings and small kindnesses, she'd started to care about this man who'd ruined her life, and that was the most terrifying truth of all. Maya didn't speak to Daniel for 3 days after their balcony conversation. She stayed in her room mostly, coming out only for meals which she ate in silence. Daniel didn't push. He gave her space, left food outside her door when she didn't come out, and went to work early and came home late. On the 4th day, Maya woke up angry, not at Daniel this time, but at herself. She'd been lying in bed feeling sorry for herself while her life passed by. Her students had moved on to a substitute teacher. Her apartment was sitting empty. Her sister had abandoned her, and she was hiding in a bedroom like a child. She got dressed, really dressed for the first time in weeks, and went out to the living room. Daniel was sitting at the dining table with his laptop and a cup of coffee, probably working before heading to the office. "I want to see proof," Maya said without greeting him. Daniel looked up surprised. "Proof of what?" "Everything. The debt my father supposedly had. The payment you made. Your grandfather's will. I want to see all of it." He closed his laptop immediately. "Of course. I'll have my lawyer send over all the documents today. I also want to talk to my mom. Alone. Without you listening in or coaching her on what to say." "Maya, I would never." "Just agree, Daniel." "Okay, yes. Whatever you need." Maya called her mother that afternoon. They met at a small cafe halfway between the city and her mom's house. Her mother looked older somehow, more tired than Maya remembered. "I'm so glad to see you up and around," her mom said, hugging her tight. "You look so much better." "Mom, I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. About Dad's debt, about Victoria, about everything." Her mother's face fell. She ordered tea with shaking hands and then told Maya everything she knew. About Victoria confessing her pregnancy, about the affair with her married boss, about Victoria's claim that their father had borrowed money from Daniel's family. "Did you ever see proof of this debt?" Maya asked. "Victoria showed me some papers. They looked official. I was so tired, Maya, so scared. I'd just spent weeks watching you lie in that hospital bed, not knowing if you'd ever wake up. When Victoria said we'd lose the house, lose everything, I just believed her. And you didn't think it was strange that the solution was to marry me off to a man I'd met once?" Her mother started crying. "I know how it sounds now. But Daniel seemed so genuine. He said he cared about our family. And Victoria made it sound like it was the only way. I thought I was saving us." Maya reached across the table and took her mother's hand. "Mom, the debt was real, but Daniel had already paid it off before he married me. We didn't have to do any of this." Her mother's face went pale. "What?" "Victoria lied to you. She manipulated both of us. Daniel found out about the debt on his own and paid it as a wedding gift for Victoria. But he didn't tell us that because he needed a wife for his own reasons. They both used us." Her mother looked like she might be sick. "Oh God, what have I done?" "Maya, I'm so sorry. I should have questioned it more. I should have protected you." "You were trying to protect me. You just didn't know who the real threat was. They talked for 2 more hours. Her mother told her more about Victoria's behavior before she left. How secretive she'd been. How she'd seemed more relieved than sad about calling off her wedding. How quickly she'd arranged everything with Daniel. When Maya got back to the penthouse that evening, she found Daniel in the kitchen attempting to cook dinner. He was a disaster, flour on his shirt and something smoking in a pan. "What are you doing?" Maya asked, torn between laughing and being concerned about the smoke detector. "Trying to make dinner. I thought maybe we could eat something that didn't come in a takeout container for once, but I'm starting to think this was a bad idea." Maya walked over and turned off the stove. "You're burning the garlic," I noticed. She looked at the ingredients scattered across the counter. He'd clearly been trying to make pasta with some kind of sauce. "Move over. Let me help before you burn the building down." They cooked together, Daniel following her instructions while she fixed his mistakes. It was the most normal they'd been with each other since she woke up. No talk of marriage or debts or lies. Just 2 people making dinner. "My mom told me everything today," Maya said as she stirred the sauce. "About Victoria's affair, about the baby." Daniel stopped chopping vegetables. "I didn't know about the baby." "She was pregnant with her boss's baby. That's why she ran. He told her to handle it and then dumped her. She was scared and desperate, so she threw me under the bus to save herself." "Maya, I'm sorry. I know she's your sister, but that's terrible. She's always been selfish. But I never thought she'd do something like this." Maya tasted the sauce and added more salt. "I found something else today. I went through my dad's old files that Mom still has. There was a letter from your grandfather to my father. They were actually friends. Did you know that?" "I didn't. Your grandfather helped my dad out when his business was struggling. Not as a loan, as a gift between friends. My dad tried to pay him back anyway over the years. The debt Victoria talked about was just the last installment my dad was planning to pay before he died. It was barely $20,000, not $200,000. Daniel sat down heavily. "So Victoria exaggerated everything. She needed you scared enough to go along with her plan. And it worked." They ate dinner in thoughtful silence. Maya found herself watching Daniel again. Really looking at him. He'd made mistakes, yes. But he'd also been there every day. He'd helped her through physical therapy, made sure she took her medications, sat with her when she had nightmares about the hospital. "Why did you really marry me?" Maya asked suddenly. "And don't tell me it was just about the will or protecting my family. There's something else." Daniel set down his fork. "The night of the engagement party, you and I talked on that rooftop. Do you remember?" "Barely. Everything right before the aneurysm is fuzzy. We talked about our jobs, about finding meaning in what we do. You said teaching kids to read wasn't glamorous, but watching them discover stories never got old." He smiled sadly. It was the most real conversation I'd had in months. Maybe years. "Victoria never talked to me like that. She talked at me about her job, her friends, her plans. But you actually listened. You asked questions. You were interested in me, not in what I could do for you." "We talked for 20 minutes, Daniel." "I know. But it was enough to make me realize I was marrying the wrong person. I'd convinced myself that Victoria was exciting and ambitious and exactly what I needed. But that night, talking to you, I felt something I hadn't felt with her. A connection, something real." Maya's heart was beating faster. "So when Victoria asked you to marry me instead?" Part of me was relieved. I know how wrong that sounds. You were in a coma and I was relieved because it gave me an out from marrying your sister. I told myself I was doing it for noble reasons, but the truth is I wanted an excuse to be connected to you. That's messed up, Daniel. I know. Trust me, I know. They cleaned up dinner together, both lost in their own thoughts. Maya went to bed that night more confused than ever. She should leave. She should get the annulment and go back to her regular life. But what life did she have to go back to? Her apartment felt small now after weeks in this penthouse. Her job had replaced her. Her sister had betrayed her. And then there was Daniel, complicated, honest, kind Daniel who'd lied to her, but who'd also been the most constant person in her life these past weeks. The next morning, Maya made a decision. She was tired of being the victim in her own story. She'd spent her whole life being the quiet sister, the safe one, the one who didn't make waves. Maybe it was time to change that. She started going to the office with Daniel, meeting the people who worked for Chen Corporation. She learned about the affordable housing projects Daniel was passionate about. She started volunteering at a literacy program for adults, using her teaching skills in a new way. She got her hair cut, bought new clothes, started taking up space in the world instead of shrinking back. Daniel watched her transformation with something like awe. This wasn't the quiet, broken woman he'd married in that hospital room. This was someone finding her strength. They started spending more time together. Real time, not just awkward dinners. They went to museums. They took walks in the park. They stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. Daniel told her about the pressure of running his family's company. Maya told him about her students and how much she missed teaching. You could start your own program, Daniel suggested one night as they sat on the balcony with wine. Use some of the Chen Foundation money. Create something that combines housing and education. Give kids in our affordable housing communities access to tutoring and books. Maya's eyes lit up. We could call it the Reading Home Project. We could. If you want to stick around long enough to see it through. There it was, the elephant in the room. They'd been avoiding talking about the annulment for weeks now. Daniel's 30th birthday was only 3 weeks away. Her phone rang, interrupting them. Unknown number. Maya almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Maya, it's me, Victoria. After 3 months of silence, her sister's voice on the other end of the line. Where are you? Maya asked, her hand gripping the phone so tight her knuckles turned white. I'm at the airport. I'm home. We need to talk. I need to see you. You need to see me, after abandoning me for 3 months. I know you're angry. I know I have a lot to explain. But Maya, I made a terrible mistake. I want to fix things. I want to make this right. It's too late for that. Please, just give me one chance. Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything. Maya looked at Daniel, who was watching her with concern. Fine, tomorrow, 2 o'clock at Mom's house. She hung up and stood there shaking. Daniel came to her side. Victoria's back? Yes, and something tells me this is about to get a lot more complicated. The next day, Maya drove to her mother's house with Daniel beside her. She'd told him he didn't need to come, but he'd insisted. They were in this together now, whatever happened. Victoria's car was already in the driveway. Maya's stomach churned as she walked to the front door. Inside, Victoria sat on the couch looking tanned and healthy, and perfectly put together in expensive clothes Maya had never seen before. She looked like she'd spent the last 3 months at a spa, not dealing with any kind of crisis. Maya. Victoria stood up, her eyes filling with tears. I've missed you so much. Don't, Maya held up her hand. Don't pretend like you care. You left me to wake up alone in a hospital bed married to a stranger. You let Mom think we'd lose everything. You disappeared without even checking if I was okay. I was dealing with my own problems. I was scared and confused and you got rid of the baby, didn't you? Maya said quietly. That's why you're back. Because your problem went away and now you want your old life back. Victoria's face went red. How did you know about that? Mom told me everything. About your affair, about the pregnancy, about all your lies. Fine. Yes, I made mistakes, but I'm here now to make things right. Victoria looked at Daniel for the first time. Daniel, I'm sorry for running away. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. But I'm ready now. I'm ready to be your wife, to have the life we planned together. The room went completely silent. What are you talking about? Maya asked. Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I want to fix this. Daniel can annul his marriage to you, and we can get married like we were supposed to. We can pretend these last few months never happened. You're insane, Maya said. I'm practical. Daniel needs a wife. I need a fresh start. And you can go back to your normal life. Everyone wins. Daniel stood up, his voice cold. I don't want to marry you, Victoria. I never really did. And even if I had, after what you did to your sister, to your family, I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. Victoria's smile disappeared. You're choosing her? My boring, invisible little sister over me? Yes, Daniel said simply. Every single time. Victoria looked at Maya with pure hatred in her eyes. You think you've won something here? You stole my fiancé. You stole my life. You threw it away, Maya shot back. And for your information, I'm not the same person you left behind. I'm done living in your shadow. I'm done letting you make me feel small. We'll see about that, Victoria said. This marriage is a fraud. I'll get lawyers. I'll expose everything. You'll both be sorry. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Maya's mother, who'd been silent this whole time, finally spoke. I'm proud of you, Maya. Your father would be too. Maya leaned against Daniel, suddenly exhausted. Victoria was back, and she was angry. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But for the first time in her life, Maya wasn't afraid of her sister. She'd found her own strength, her own voice. And she wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. Not even Victoria. Victoria wasn't bluffing about the lawyers. Within a week, Maya and Daniel received official letters claiming fraud, coercion, and exploitation of an unconscious person. Victoria was demanding the marriage be declared invalid and was threatening to go to the media with her story. Billionaire marries coma patient in hospital scandal would make quite a headline. Maya sat in Daniel's lawyer's office, listening to a man in an expensive suit explain all the ways this could go wrong. Victoria had a case, he said. Not a strong one, but enough to cause problems, especially with the media attention. The best option is to settle quietly, the lawyer suggested. Pay her off. Make this go away. Absolutely not, Maya said firmly. I'm not giving her a single dollar. Daniel looked at her with surprise. Maya, if this goes public, it could damage the company. My uncle is already looking for any excuse to challenge the will. This could give him ammunition. Then let him try. I'm done being afraid of what Victoria might do. Maya stood up. She abandoned me, lied to our family, and now she wants to be paid for her mistakes? No, if she wants a fight, she'll get one. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Chen, I understand you're angry, but don't call me Mrs. Chen like that, Maya interrupted. Say it like you mean it. I am Mrs. Chen, that's my legal name. Victoria gave up any claim to it when she got on that plane to Paris. Daniel smiled, actually smiled, for the first time since Victoria came back. You heard my wife. We're not settling. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria tried everything. She showed up at the penthouse demanding to be let in. She called Maya's mother crying, trying to get her on her side. She even went to Maya's old school and tried to turn her former co-workers against her. But something had changed. Maya's mother refused to see Victoria after learning the truth about how she'd manipulated everyone. Maya's co-workers remembered Victoria as the sister who never came to school events and barely acknowledged Maya's existence. Nobody was buying Victoria's victim story. Then Victoria made her biggest mistake. She went to the media. A gossip website ran the story exactly as they'd feared. Secret hospital wedding. Did billionaire CEO take advantage of coma patient? The article painted Daniel as a predator and Maya as a helpless victim. Comments flooded in, mostly from people who didn't know anything about the real story. Maya woke up to hundreds of notifications on her phone. Messages from old friends asking if she was okay. Strangers telling her she should sue. People calling Daniel terrible names. I'm so sorry, Daniel said, looking at his own phone with a pale face. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Maya was already getting dressed. We're going to fix this today. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to tell the truth, all of it. On our terms. Maya called a press conference for that afternoon. Daniel's PR team tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't budge. She'd spent too long letting other people control her narrative. They held it in the Chen Corporation lobby. Reporters packed the room, cameras flashing, everyone shouting questions. Maya stood at the podium with Daniel beside her, trying not to let her hands shake. My name is Maya Chen, she started. And yes, I married Daniel Chen while I was in a medically induced coma. But the story you've been told isn't the whole truth. She told them everything. About Victoria's affair and lies. About the fake debt story. About Daniel's grandfather's will. About how she'd woken up angry and betrayed but had chosen to stay. About how she'd fallen in love with her husband despite the horrible way their marriage began. My sister is trying to paint me as a victim, Maya said, her voice getting stronger. But I'm not. I'm a woman who made a choice. Yes, I didn't choose the marriage at first, but I'm choosing it now. I'm choosing Daniel. I'm choosing this life we're building together. And my sister doesn't get to take that away from me because she regrets her own decisions. The reporters erupted with questions. Maya answered them honestly. Daniel stood beside her, his hand finding hers, squeezing gently. When they finally left the building, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. That evening, Victoria showed up at the penthouse. The doorman called up first and Maya told him to let her come. Victoria looked different this time. Smaller somehow. Tired. She'd clearly seen the press conference. "You had no right to air our family business like that," Victoria said as soon as she walked in. "I had every right. You made it public first. I just told the truth. You made me look like a terrible person. You are a terrible person, Victoria. At least right now you are. You lied, you manipulated, you abandoned your family when things got hard. You don't get to come back and pretend none of that happened." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, not the fake ones she'd been using. "I was scared, Maya. I was pregnant and alone and I panicked. Then you should have asked for help. Mom would have helped you. I would have helped you. Instead, you destroyed my life to save yours. But you're fine now. Better than fine. You got the rich husband, the perfect life. You won. This isn't about winning or losing. This is about you finally facing consequences for your actions." Maya sat down on the couch. "For once in your life, Victoria, something didn't go your way. And instead of taking responsibility, you tried to tear down everyone around you." Victoria stood there crying. And Maya felt something unexpected. Pity. Not sympathy, not forgiveness, but pity for this woman who'd spent so long being the perfect sister that she'd forgotten how to be a real person. "I'll drop the lawsuit," Victoria said quietly. "I'll leave you alone." "Good, but Victoria, you need to get help. Real help. Talk to someone about why you do these things, about why you hurt people who love you." Victoria nodded and left without another word. Maya watched her go, wondering if her sister would actually change or if this was just another performance. Either way, it was no longer her problem. Daniel's birthday arrived 3 days later. His 30th birthday, the deadline for his grandfather's will. They'd made it, but instead of a big celebration, Maya had something else planned. She'd organized a small gathering at their favorite restaurant. Just her mom, a few close friends from Daniel's work, and the kids from the literacy program Maya had started. After dinner, after the cake and presents, Maya stood up to make a toast. 3 months ago, I woke up in a hospital married to a stranger. It was the worst day of my life at the time. But looking back now, maybe it was the beginning of the best thing that ever happened to me. She looked at Daniel, who was watching her with so much love in his eyes it made her chest tight. "Daniel, you lied to me. You trapped me. You did something unforgivable." She paused. "And then you spent every day since trying to make it right. You were patient when I was angry. You were kind when I was cruel. You gave me space to find myself again. You never once tried to force me into being someone I wasn't." She reached into her pocket and pulled out her wedding ring. She'd taken it off that morning and Daniel had noticed, his face falling. But now she held it up for everyone to see. "This ring was put on my finger without my consent. But today I'm choosing to put it back on. Not because I have to. Not because of some debt or obligation. But because I want to. Because I love you. Because I choose you." She slid the ring back onto her finger as Daniel stood up, tears in his eyes. "Maya," he started, but she wasn't done. "But I'm not done talking. Sit down." People laughed. Daniel sat. "I want to renew our vows. A real wedding, a real ceremony, with me actually conscious this time. I want to marry you for real, Daniel Chen, if you'll have me." Daniel was across the room in 2 seconds, pulling her into his arms, kissing her in front of everyone. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The renewal ceremony happened 2 months later. It was small and perfect. Maya wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Her mother cried happy tears. Daniel's employees came, along with families from the affordable housing communities they'd been helping. The kids from Maya's literacy program sang a song they'd learned just for the occasion. Victoria wasn't invited. She'd moved to another city, supposedly working on herself. Maya hoped it was true, but she didn't spend much time thinking about it anymore. Her sister's life was Victoria's responsibility now, not hers. When the minister asked if Maya took Daniel to be her husband, she said, "I do," with her whole heart. And when he asked Daniel the same, Daniel's answer was just as certain. They kissed as husband and wife for real this time, and Maya felt something she'd never felt before. Complete. Whole. Like she'd finally found where she belonged. Later that night, standing on their balcony looking at the city lights, Daniel pulled her close. "Thank you for giving me a second chance, for seeing past all the mistakes to who I really am. Thank you for being patient while I found myself, for letting me become someone stronger. You were always strong, Maya, you just didn't know it yet. She smiled and kissed him. We should probably talk about the fact that we did everything backwards. Most people date, fall in love, then get married. We got married and then did everything else. I don't know. I kind of like our story. It's not perfect, but it's ours, and he was right. Their story wasn't perfect. It started with lies and manipulation and a hospital room, but it ended with truth and love, and two people who chose each other every single day. Maya thought about the person she'd been before the aneurysm. The quiet teacher who lived in her sister's shadow. The woman who was so used to being invisible that she'd forgotten how to be seen. That person was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone who'd been through hell and come out stronger. Someone who'd learned that the worst thing that ever happened to her could also be the beginning of her greatest happiness. She looked at the ring on her finger, the one that had once felt like a trap. Now it felt like a promise. Not a promise made by someone else on her behalf, but a promise she'd made herself. She'd chosen this. She'd chosen him. She'd chosen herself, and that made all the difference.